Radio.
Okay. So yes, so I got, I think I got to a point where I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Okay, so here we are with the fantabulous Jules, and we've been friends forever. But you might, I don't know. Do you want to talk about when we met? When did we meet? How long ago was it?
We met in about 2020, I reckon.
2020. Just yesterday.
Yes. It was like yesterday. 2000, I think. 2000. We met. I was dragged kicking and screaming to church.
Nice
by
job.
my sister. Then I met this fabulous Sal, who just lived around the corner from me.
Yes,
that was
that's
pretty handy.
Right. Yeah, that was
And
handy.
had a pile of kids, and I had some kids. So
Yeah.
yeah, we got together and hung out a bit, and that's how I met Sal.
There you go. That's a long time ago now, isn't it? So, and we're still mates. So we must be doing something all right.
Must be.
So we're just going to just have a chat about recovery and what that looks like for you, and maybe just, you can share as much as you like or whatever on your own personal journey with whatever, drugs, alcohol, whatever you want to divulge, and what's worked for you.
Yeah, for sure. I think that I spent quite a lot of years where I wasn't taking drugs, and I started taking drugs quite late compared to some people. I guess I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
I had smoked a little bit of dope prior to that, but heavier drugs, yes, came into my life.
Yeah.
My 21st birthday, I was given my first shot of heroin, so that was awesome.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. 17 years later, I was still fighting that addiction.
Wow.
So, so it was a big part of my life. I stopped and went off and went on. I had kids in between that, and I went on methadone program several times, and tried various things. But I think for me, really, I was just hanging around with the same people. So it didn't matter how much I tried to get off, there'd always be somebody knocking on my door with some drugs. You know? And people were very good back in those days of giving you free drugs.
True story.
Because then you would come back and get some more, but you'd actually be paying for them then. So I guess I had a couple of little kids too, so it was tough on the kids living like that. I was very lucky that I had supportive family and friends, and my kids didn't end up, in a really bad place. But I think their lives were certainly affected by it. I did some jail, so a couple of times. So and luckily they, the kids were picked up by family, so that was great. But even that didn't teach me. And I think one day I just woke up and I was so sick and tired of being sick and tired.
True. Yeah.
I just didn't want. It was like a full-time job, going out and getting money to score, and still trying to balance looking after my kids and being with partners who use drugs as well. So it was really difficult to get away from all that stuff.
So you're saying you did some time in jail. I was just wondering, Jules, you're saying like even from 21, you just it just became a thing. Is it fair? I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is it sort of fair to say it became like a normal for you?
Oh, absolutely. It was like, and I used to say this quite often, that particularly when I've been using for a few years, I didn't use heroin to get high or enjoy it anymore. I used it to feel normal. I couldn't get through my day without it being normal, and it wasn't. That was normal, to get up and score, or go and get money to score, and score, and then you just repeat it again the next day. So or later on that day even. So it was. So it was normal. It was what life was about. There wasn't really much else going on. You know, my focus was just getting through the day and feeling normal, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I know for me, I don't know about you. Again, I did time in jail as well, and even though I was relatively clean in jail, I still went straight back to it after I got out of jail. Jail wasn't the thing that turned my life around.
Yeah, absolutely. I was the same. I was relatively clean. You know, the occasional
Yeah.
one when you know, someone would get some stuff in, but it was pretty occasional. And when I moved from the main prison down to the cottages and stuff like that, and I was going out on day release, and yeah, I didn't really use that much and didn't really need to use when I got out. I didn't have a habit when I got out.
Yeah.
But I got out and pretty much the first thing I wanted to do was go to school.
Yeah.
You know, and I saw that with so many other people as well. You know, people getting out and going out and doing the same thing and just coming back in a few months later. You know, it was like a revolving door.
Yeah. What would you now, like looking back, what would you put that down to now?
I think you went back to what you knew. So like I went back to the same friends that were all using drugs, and you know, moved in the same circles, lived in the same area. Nothing had really changed. It was almost probably a few months after I got out that it just went back to the same as it was before I got locked up. So, and I did one pretty long stint. I did nearly 3 years.
Yep.
So that was a long time to be in there. And yeah, I still just came out and did it all again.
Yeah, wow.
And I actually met my husband in jail.
Yeah.
So we became pen pals in that stint I did, and he was doing a couple of years, and so we became pen pals, and then we met and started dating, and he was a heroin addict as well. So and he knew more people to school from, you know. So we had double the people to school,
contacts,
double the contacts when we got out.
Yeah. So he got out around.
So yeah, got out around the same time, and you know, found a house and did that sort of thing. I think I got out maybe a few months before he did. And I stayed clean for a little while, and we both stayed clean for a little while, but it didn't last for very long. And we still were associated with a lot of people from jail, so they were getting out too. The final straw, I think, was when my youngest daughter's father went back to jail, and I just went, enough is enough.
Yeah.
I'd got out of that relationship, sort of kidnapped her, and had her for a few months, and I didn't see her.
So it's full on.
And then I finally got interim custody order and got into court and got her back. But he still had access to her, and he committed an offence while she was in his care. And the police rang me and handed her over. And then he went back to jail, and then I was kind of, that's it, enough's enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I started really seeking out to cut myself off from everybody. I moved, didn't tell anybody where I'd gone.
Yeah.
It was really difficult. It was like I had to start again with no friends. My family we were kind of close, but kind of not, because of all the stuff that had gone on. With me going in and out of jail and being on drugs. So
For sure.
there was probably only my sister I really had, and my kids, you know. So it was a bit of a lonely time.
Yeah.
But,
So how many kids did you have at that point, Jules?
well, I've got 3. So the oldest one had moved out years before when she was sort of 18, but she was still on the scene, still around the place. And then I had the 2 younger ones. The middle one was probably about 9 then, I think. And the youngest one was 3.
So this whole point from when you were 21 I don't want to give away your age or anything, but how many years was it before you reached that point where you said, actually, I've had a guts full. Now I've had enough.
It was, it was a good 25 years, probably.
Yeah.
It was a long time. Even after I stopped, I still ended up back in jail.
Yeah.
For offences that caught up with me.
Yeah.
So I ended up going and doing another sin, and my youngest one came into jail with me. So I think I did about another 6 months, and it was because there were some old charges hanging around that they caught up with me, and at that point I wasn't using.
Yeah.
And then I think that was the turning point when I moved away from everyone, and then I started to see my sister a bit more, and she was going to church, and she said, you should come to church, and I was just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
If that's what gets you through, but I'm not interested.
So you're a bit cynical at first, yeah.
More than a bit, I'd say. I was still, I'd stopped using heroin, but I was still taking a few pills here and there.
Yeah.
Just to get me through the day, some mother's little helpers, like the old Rolling Stones songs. But so it was, so I was still not entirely straight then.
Yeah.
But I was doing a lot better. And I started to get involved with she was actually a social worker that was at Norfolk, that I met at Norfolk Women's Prison. And she'd started a halfway house for women getting out of prison, out in the community. And I got involved. She called me and said, would you be interested in doing some training and doing a bit of a program with us? So in the end, 6 of us that had all been in jail or been victims of domestic violence, and my oldest daughter, who had been a victim of, all of the stuff that had happened.
Yeah.
She'd never been involved with the police or been involved with drugs, but she'd been, sort of affected by that. She became part of that program as well, and we did some 66 hours of counselling training, and off we went.
Wow.
And we went into schools, and we went into McGill and Cabin, the youth training centres, and we ran programs with the young people there.
Yeah.
We were able to share our experiences with them and help them make better choices. So that really sort of set me on a path that I wanted more out of life, I think. And then I went to church for a year, and I asked lots of questions. I drove my pastor crazy, I think, and because I'm a bit of a realist and I didn't really believe what they were trying to tell me. And then I had a few experiences that I went, whoa, there's something in this. And then, I finally was saved. I finally stopped fighting God and was saved, and that was another turning point in my life. So, and then things became, because I was kind of fighting church for a while, and I'd just go because my sister said, yeah, it's cool, let's go, and I just wanted to hang around with her, really. But then it became something else, and then some things happened, and I finally put my hand up and said, yeah, I want to be saved. And life got better from there. I felt stronger, and I had a purpose. So then I went from there to study youth work. So then I studied youth work, and I did a certificate in alcohol and other drugs, which is really interesting.
It is.
And I learned a lot of things, I think, from doing that, and learned a lot of ways to combat my own addiction, as well as being able to help others. So, and then I did a placement with the local youth centre, and 12 years later I'm still working at that youth centre. So
fantastic. So you've been clean now 12 years?
Yeah,
or more?
A bit more than that, about 18, 19
fantastic.
years, I think. And it was a real journey, and it was really tough, but I think for me, the biggest thing was, one of the biggest things was separating myself from everybody in that scene.
Yeah.
I had to move away. I
Yeah.
had to start a new life.
Yeah.
If I hadn't done that, I don't know that I would be where I am today. You know, I would have just gone back, I think, like I did every other time. But I was really tough. I changed my phone number. I moved, didn't tell anybody where I lived. And I just got to know my kids again. I spent time with my kids again, more time with them. And you know, and I got a lot of support from people in the church, and I think that was really important too. You know, when I finally moved from, you know, the house with my partner and moved into the flat on my own with the 2 girls, you know, one of the ladies from the church and all her kids rocked up with about 7 bags of shopping. Yeah, you know,
lovely.
And just said, hey, we just want to give you this to bless you. And I was just like blown away that people would just do that with nothing. She didn't want anything from me. She, you know, I was kind of like still at that point where I was like, I'll pay you back, you know. She said, no, you don't have to pay me back. You know, this is a gift. This is a blessing, you know. And then I started to learn that people didn't always want something from you, you know, and that was a really good lesson that helped keep me strong, I think.
So you sort of you've said a few things I think that's really helpful. One is, you know, of course you sort of got to that point where you're totally sick of it, and I think as well I talk to people about you've really got to, and good on you, you've done this, like it's like getting everybody in your phone list and deleting them, which is actually full on when you think about it. But you did that, and that seems to have been something that, and then reconnecting. So you mentioned about purpose as well. So maybe can you talk to us a bit about that, about how you see that as fitting in the scheme of things, purpose?
Yeah, I think without having purpose, like I said before, I think I would have just gone back. I needed something to anchor me. You know, I think being involved in the church and learning about God was part of that. Yeah. But I think also having this vision that I wanted to help other young people, you know, other young people, I wasn't young then, but young people, you know, to not make those same choices that I made when I was younger. Yeah. And to be able to talk honestly to them and say, hey, you know, you can do this stuff, but this is what might happen if you do. This is a path you might go down. And feeling like I knew because I'd been there. So my purpose then became, I actually want to make a difference with other people's lives. I want to make a difference for young people in our community. And the more I got involved in that, and the more I studied it, and the more people I met, I saw that need out there. I saw this emptiness that a lot of young people had, you know, and I think that drove me, and that was my, you know, my life became purpose driven because I wanted to help young people, other young people.
So, because I actually remember having a conversation with you many years ago when it was a dream. You know, a dream and a desire sort of in your heart to be a youth worker and a support person. I suppose you've taken a maybe not the career pathway that someone to get there, but peer support is so key these days, isn't it?
It is, and that was what that program that the ex counsellor from the women's prison, that was the program she started. It was a peer support program. And we came in as peer support workers to support young people, you know, who were going through difficult times and being involved in drugs and crime and stuff like that. So, I think that was the beginning of it all, and it gave me a thirst for it. I loved going into the youth detention centres and actually getting somewhere with the young people. Sometimes it would take minutes, sometimes it would take hours, sometimes it would take weeks to get through to some of those young people. Yeah. But I think eventually we made an impact on them all, and I only maybe 2 weeks ago I saw one of them, and this is someone from 20 years ago who was a kid locked up. And she was a heroin addict, and you know, had all kinds of things going on in her life, and she's now married and has a couple of kids, and she's now a youth worker.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I was just like, wow, that's amazing. That's
It
so
is.
cool
It is.
to hear those stories
Yeah.
and feel like in some small way I contributed to that journey.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And that's sort of, I suppose that's sort of what we're trying to do here too, and just give you a broader platform and people to share their stories so that they can be an encouragement to others. So sort of to finish up, I thought I'll just throw it on you. If there's someone out there right now, Jules, who's just struggling with whatever, addiction and feeling hopeless and whatever, what would be your key sort of things that you'd say to them?
I think the key thing is you need to talk to somebody, you need to seek help, and you need to seek it in the right places.
Yep.
You know, whether it's connecting with a local church, whether it's speaking to a counsellor, whether it's speaking to a trusted friend who is not in that same space as you are.
Yep.
You know, I think connection is key for all of us in life, and I think that it's really important that, and don't be afraid to take that step, because I was terrified. I was terrified to delete everybody on my phone list and move and start a new life. It terrified me. But I got there, and things are so much better now.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel really blessed in my life right now, and I don't think that would have happened. But I made some really good connections in those difficult times with people that really helped me through that journey. And I think that's don't be afraid to reach out. You know, talk to people. You've got to start somewhere. And I think also, if you slip up, don't give up. You know, that's
good point.
You know, that's I did that a few times. Slipped up and went, well, that's it.
Yeah,
you know? And I used to call it my suicide mission.
Yeah.
You know, I'm off on that track again. You know, because I would just go all in again. There was no slipping a little bit. If I slipped a little bit, I would go all in. So I feel like, you know, if you do make a mistake, it's okay. Pick yourself up, dust yourself up, you know, and just carry on.
Yeah.
Just keep going down that path.
Good job. Good job. Thanks so much for your time, Jules. And I think we might have to chat again. You've brought up a lot of things, but I hope it's a real encouragement to people. So, yeah, God bless.